Hi there guys, Sonicake got in touch with me and asked me whether I wanted to review their latest line of pedals. Because I've had quite a few of their products on the channel previously, I wasn't particularly interested in doing that. However, I've taken just the one pedal, it's the delay pedal, and the reason for that is because I can see that they're trying to push their brand from being a budget option up to something more mid-range. You can see that from the aesthetic, and you can also see it from the price, which is significantly more than the previous iterations of their pedals, which were these little mini pedals. They were good, they were decent sounds, and some of them had true bypass and a nice set of features, but this is definitely a little step up from that. So let's have a look at the features on this pedal. You've got a wet and dry control, which is pretty neat if you want to run a wet-dry rig. It means you've got a dry defeat. So you could have only the wet signal being sent to a secondary amp, or you could use it for reamping purposes. You've got a feedback and a time control. Now the time control is a little sensitive. This would be one of my only gripes with this particular product. You've got a maximum delay time of 2000 milliseconds. So if you think of my DD3 has got 800 milliseconds, and I think the carbon copy has only got something like 600 or 650. Imagine slicing that into 650 segments around the dial. This one has got 2000, which means that it's on a little bit of a knife edge. Now to compensate for that, you do have a tap tempo, the operation of which is going to be a little polarizing depending on your use case. So the right hand button, you can hold it down for an extended period of time and it'll go into tap tempo mode. You can then tap it at the speed that you want your delay to repeat. You can't have it divisions in a musical sense. You can't have dotted 8s or 16s. It's literally just the speed that you tap. In order to then turn the effect off, you'd have to return it to on-off mode by holding down the button for an extended period of time. And this is what I feel might be slightly polarizing here. For me, I would find that a little finicky in a live environment. The only time I really turn off my delay is if there's a stop in a song. So if the band do a nice crisp stop, I don't want my delay tail end carrying on and making a mess of that. In order to return that to on-off mode, you'd have to long press it and then press it again once it's become an on-off button. I don't think I'd be able to do that in a rush. So personally, I would prefer it if you held it down, it went to tap mode, you tapped your delay, and when you walked away from it, it returned itself to on-off mode, which is what a lot of tap tempo delays tend to do. The opposite way of thinking there is that if you leave your delay on the whole time and you want to be able to tap tempo it, you could leave this in tap mode the whole time. And that way you wouldn't have to long press every time you wanted to set the rate. So, like I said, it's going to be pretty subjective, that one, player to player. Reverb on the other side, you have reverb and decay. The decay will allow you to go from pretty much a broom closet sound right up to cathedral setting. The reverb itself, I would say, is probably most similar to a plate. It's definitely not a spring and it's definitely not a hall setting. It sounds kind of like a plate, but it's sort of its own thing. One other thing to mention here is you have a hold for trail. What this means is that when you have it in trail mode, you do the same thing you do with a tap tempo. You hold it down for a long period of time, it'll flash to let you know that you're in trail mode. When you then turn the effect off, any decay or repeats that you have on the go will carry on and run their course, even though you've turned the effect off. You won't be able to have any more delay or any more reverb once you've turned it off, but you'll hear the decay. If you don't have the trail engaged, which is probably how I would run it, it'll just cut the effect off dead. Now, it's a lot more unnatural, but as I previously said, the only time I really turn my reverb and delay off is when there's a stop in a song, so I want to kill it dead. But it is a little bit more natural to have the trail engaged. That way, when you turn it off, it just decays as it would do. It's only mono. That's going to be a bit of a deal breaker for some people, although personally I've never run a stereo rig in terms of actual amplifiers. I have run a stereo rig going direct to PA before. It makes your choruses sound incredibly wide. But I feel that for most people, mono is pretty much good enough. At 50 quid, which is what they're charging for this, you're not just in competition with the other budget brands, but you're also starting to be in competition with the used mid-range products. The pull of an established brand is strong, but at a comparable price point, the feature set may be simplistic and will probably be limited to just reverb or delay rather than both. Whether it competes with a used mid-range product, I don't know, but it's still good value at 50 quid, given that you are getting combined reverb and delay in one unit. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Later.